Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping right into what really makes reconciliation tick, especially in peace education.
Yeah, we've got some fascinating material here.
We do. It really breaks down the key things needed for people, for whole communities to heal and, move on after conflict.
It's almost like looking at the blueprints for building peace, isn't it?
Exactly. And the examples cover a lot of big things like truth commissions, but also education community stuff.
Right. It makes it concrete.
Yeah.
It shifts it from just hoping for peace to seeing, okay, what are the actual steps? Things you can apply personally or, on a bigger societal level.
Okay, so let's dig into that first piece, truth and acknowledgement. Sounds straightforward, but it's really about facing up to things, yeah. Openly talking about past wrongs. Why start there?
Well, because if you don't acknowledge the wounds, they don't heal right. You can't really build anything solid on top of unspoken pain or denied history.
Makes sense.
Think about South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission after apartheid. That's a major example.
Right.
The whole process of people publicly sharing these incredibly painful truths from all sides was crucial. It helped create a kind of collective memory, a shared understanding of what actually happened.
So less about immediate punishment and more about establishing, okay, this is what we agree occurred.
Exactly. A common ground of truth to stand on, even if it's painful.
Okay, got it. So building on that truth, the next element is forgiveness. Now, that's a word that carries, well, a lot of baggage.
It really does. And our sources are careful here. They frame it less as, forgetting or excusing what happened.
Which seems impossible sometimes.
Right. But more as a personal journey, a way to move past the anger and the resentment, mainly for your own healing.
Ah.
The reconciliation programs in Rwanda after the genocide, talk about a challenge.
Unbelievably difficult.
Yeah. Getting victims and offenders into dialogue, trying to find a way to just live side by side again. It shows how incredibly hard it is, but also maybe how necessary that internal shift can be for coexistence. It's about resilience.
Wow. Okay, so from that very personal space, we then get to restorative justice. This feels like a bit of a turn from how we normally think about justice, doesn't it?
It does, because, standard justice is often about assigning blame, figuring out punishment. Restorative justice is more focused on, okay, how do we repair the harm that was done?
Harm to people, to relationships.
Exactly. How do we mend those connections? It often involves dialogue between everyone affected, sometimes compensation, ways to make things right, practically speaking.
Any examples jump out?
Well, the sources mention community-led things in Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Former adversaries actually working together to deal with the lingering tension, trying to rebuild trust.
So healing the community itself, not just punishing individuals.
Precisely. Healing the social fabric, you could say.
Interesting shift. Then we've got mutual respect. This sounds like the ongoing effort, maybe, the day-to-day part of peace.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's about actively promoting equality, recognizing everyone's dignity, and fostering real understanding between groups that were once enemies.
How does that look on the ground?
Peace education in Colombia is a good example mentioned. You have displaced communities and former combatants actually collaborating on projects together.
Working side by side.
Yeah. And through that, hopefully, building respect for each other's different experiences and roles in building a shared future.
And that leads nicely into community building, right? Taking that respect and turning it into action.
Absolutely. It's about having shared projects, common goals that can unite different groups and give them a stake in a peaceful future together.
Like the Seeds of Peace program.
That's a classic example, bringing young people together from places like Israel and Palestine. They do collaborative projects. They have dialogue.
Trying to build bridges early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The long-term aim is creating a shared story, a sense of common purpose that can hopefully overcome those historical divides.
Okay, and the final element is education and awareness, equipping the next generation, essentially.
Precisely that. Teaching about why the conflict happened in the first place, the root causes, the lessons learned. It's all aimed at stopping those cycles of violence from repeating.
History lessons with a purpose.
Very much so. Think about Holocaust studies becoming standard in German schools after World War II. That deep historical understanding is vital for shaping a society's commitment to peace, to making sure it doesn't happen again, learning from the past.
So just to recap, we've touched on truth and acknowledgement, forgiveness, restorative justice, mutual respect, community building, and education and awareness. Quite a toolkit.
It really is. And what's key, I think, is that these aren't separate boxes. Our sources suggest they overlap, they reinforce each other. It's a complex dance.
Definitely. Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener. Thinking about all these pieces of the reconciliation puzzle, truth, forgiveness, justice, respect, community, education, which single element do you think gets forgotten most often? Or maybe just underestimated when we're trying to mend divides, whether that's personally or out in the wider world? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.